Hello and welcome to another ramble around the churchyard of St Nicholas Church, Sutton. I'm Jeff Richards, I'm one of the trustees of the Friends of St Nicholas Churchyard, and it is great to welcome you here. I can't actually take you on a real ramble around the churchyard because of all of the difficulties of COVID-19. We are living in an extraordinary historic time, so it's a perfect time to make time for history and to learn a little bit about the historic churchyard of St Nicholas and the Church of St Nicholas as well. I want to say thank you very much for the help that Enjoy Sutton and Sutton Civic Society provide. If you don't know who Enjoy Sutton are, they're the people who do a lot of the work with the 450 odd businesses that make up the commercial centre of Sutton, the High Street area. They are very much our friends when it comes to helping us promote the St Nicholas Church from a historical point of view and, of course, as a visitor attraction as well into Sutton. And the Sutton Civic Society are the critical friends of the London Borough of Sutton, providing input around planning and changes of use, etc., within the High Street. Very much two organisations that I would encourage you to look at. And we're touching on a number of things today that really, if you want to know more about history, if you want to know more, then I would encourage you to look at Sutton College's history and culture classes. Their curriculum is very good and it will deal very nicely with some of the topics that we've got today. Now, one of the fun aspects of my work as a trustee of St Nicholas, Friends of St Nicholas Churchyard, is to sometimes bring youngsters into the churchyard to be able to explain about the history, some of the monuments, etc. But usually it's to do volunteering work, like getting the cubs and the beavers to do bulb planting, or students from Carshalton College to help with litter picking and things like that, or even some of the youngsters who take part in the National Citizen Service, the Challenge event as well. They do lots of work in the churchyard as well, and it's great to be able to wander through and introduce them to the pirate graves of St Nicholas Church. And you can think of, you might have in your mind the idea of pirate graves, and they'd be displaying the skull and crossbones or the Jolly Roger or something fierce. And in fact, there are graves inside St Nicholas which do display what looks like pirate emblems. And if you don't know what they are, they do look like they are really lifted up and put down there, either as something sinister or something very threatening, as the remains of a pirate perhaps lying in St Nicholas Churchyard. And actually, these are very Christian symbols. They are memento moris, and this happens to be the grave of a lady called Elizabeth Beauchamp, and this is from the 18th century, and you're looking at a skull and crossbones carved in there, and this makes this particular monument really quite important. It's one of several listed monuments that exist within the churchyard itself. Now, St Nicholas Church is a Grade 2 star listed building, partly because of the monuments that are contained within the church, but because it's in an environment in which there are 6 Grade 2 listed monuments as well. And you can see that the Elizabeth Beauchamp's tomb is just one of those. So if I start to explain a little bit about Elizabeth, we can probably learn a little bit more about this. Now, we don't know a huge amount about Elizabeth herself. The inscription is partly legible. The date of death looks like it's 1716, That's consistent with the style of the headstone as well. And it is a very striking design. You've got this skull and crossbones very clearly inscribed. It looks like a hussar helmet, and it's the sort of thing that you might see on some of the regiments, tank regiments and things in the British Army. But this is in memory of Elizabeth Beauchamp, and the monument says that she's the wife of John Beauchamp, who was a citizen and vintner of London, and she was 32 years when she died. The lettering is very well crafted, and but the headstone is roughly hewn as though it was going to be perhaps worked on again for more inscriptions or more information. But it's useful because it tells us about Sutton of the time. So if we close our eyes and try and remember what Sutton was like. Sutton was in 1716 when Elizabeth died, a small village. This is Rock's map of some 60 years later. This is a 1798 map. So it's looking at the fact that we've got open fields, and it's a place where houses would be able to be seen as very beautiful houses within settings, with lots of parkland, with lots of space. So if you were a rich merchant, this would be Sutton was an ideal place for you. And I've explored in other past rambles about how there were regular couriers going up to London and serving the city all the way from Reigate all the way through. These were regular commutes, and it was within commuting distance of London. We've got writers of around the mid-18th century describing even Epsom as a commutable distance to London as well. And so the small little churchyard, again, this is at the end of this is showing the church of St. Nicholas as it was at the end of the 18th century, and showing some of the graves. Now, what's not shown here is Elizabeth's grave. It's not shown here, and I think that some of these are little more than fantasy tombs, but the church is about right, where we see there. Now, what's interesting is this Memento Mori concept is not just shown within Elizabeth's grave, it's carried on inside the church as well. You've got monuments inside, several monuments, and this happens to be, I think this is Isaac Littlebury's monument, and it's showing the flying skull. The idea that death swoops in and comes to us all. And this strikes us at the heart of the Memento Mori, which, if you imagine you're a cub wandering along the road, you're coming up the path and you're doing bulb planting with me, and you're an 8-year-old, and you see this skull, and you ask me or ask somebody else, what is it? And of course the glib answer is to say it's a pirate tomb. But actually the purpose, anyone walking in 1716, seeing this tomb of the young woman Elizabeth Beauchamp, who died when she was 32, would have understood that death comes to everyone. And that skull is facing down the path. As you walk up to it, it's telling you that you're going to die, and you have to prepare for death. And the concept of being able to have a good death is embedded within the fears of the 17th century, the 18th century, 19th century, and still this idea that we should be preparing to be able to meet our Maker, properly prepared, properly aware of our sinfulness and our reliance on his mercy. And that's the idea behind that Memento Mori. Remember, you're going to die. And it's not the only monument within the churchyard that has that skull. We've looked at them outside, but here's another monument that is just on the north northern walls of the churchyard. It was originally a standing monument, but it's fallen and it's been moved into the shadow of the building. It's probably one of the monuments that was disturbed when the Victorians rebuilt the church. And so what we can see here is a scroll top with surrounding the skull and crossbones. The skull has been a little bit defaced. And if we look at what the tomb says, this is to a young boy, Edmund Hawkins, who died on March 24th. And we're assuming that that's at 1692, aged 4 years. And in fact, that is the case. We can see at 1692 from the parish registers, Edmund Hawkins was buried April 26th. So there was a little while before, if he died on March 24th, which is just before the eve of Lady Day, and then April 26th. That might, when he was buried, so he died on the 24th of March, and then a month later he was buried. So I suspect that he may well have been buried before that, but then a funeral held afterwards. It's just one of those peculiar things, I think. I don't think they would have kept his body for a month before burial. But he was 4 years old, and a 4-year-old has been given a substantial tomb. The Hawkins family were one of the families living in the Sutton, Cheam and Carshalton areas, and it's worth reminding ourselves and just looking at what the village was like. It takes us, these memento moris take us right back to that earliest time of what we can identify as the community of Sutton, where we have the most evidence. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed that ramble. We've taken you through the churchyard, explained a little bit about the pirate tombs of St. Nicholas Churchyard. If you want to know more about St. Nicholas's history, then please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, we've touched on all different topics like funereal traditions. If you want to learn more about history, then please do check out our friends at Sutton College, who have an excellent history and culture curriculum to explore. I hope you've enjoyed today. Your History, Sutton.